Okay, hi, this is Margaret from the County of San Luis Obispo Public Library. I am here for a virtual program with Teachers of Nature, all about bugs and creepy crawly stuff. This project is a program of the County of San Luis Obispo Public Library, supported in whole by the U.S. Institute of Museum and Library Services under the provisions of the Library Services and Technology Act, as administered in California by the state librarian. So thank you so much to the California State Library for funding this program today. We're super excited to be able to provide this for you guys. And I don't want to do all the talking because you want to get to the fun stuff. So I'm going to turn you over to Dr. Allison Kaufman, who is going to share all kinds of cool stuff about invertebrates. All right, thank you, Dr. Kaufman.
Awesome. All right, I am going to share my screen. Share sound. All right. Let's see. Okay, I'm hoping you guys can see my screen there. Oh, all right. I'm hoping everybody can see my screen. Let's see. Can I get the chat up here too, or is that too
Yes, they said they can see it. So you're doing
awesome. Great. I'm not sure if I can get the chat up here too, so hopefully somebody can let me know. Oh, wait, chat. There we go. Wait, come back here, chat. No, wait, come back here.
I can monitor the chat too.
Oh, there we go. I got it. I don't know if you guys see the chat now too. Do you?
No.
Oh, awesome. Okay, perfect. All right. So I am screen sharing. We are all good. So as she said, welcome. My name is Dr. Allison. I'm from Teachers of Nature, and we are talking about incredible invertebrates. There we go. I actually normally have a partner, but she is not here today. I am a biologist, and my partner is Dr. Janae, who is an entomologist. However, she got called away today. She does a lot of work, so a lot of research out in the field, out in the wild, and she got called away on a project. Fortunately, she was able to leave us some videos that she made in her lab and of the butterflies that she keeps in her lab. So I will play those at some point, and she does some talking for us and explains what's going on in her lab and the life cycle of the butterflies that she takes care of. So we will still be able to see what she's got going on as well. But you just got me talking today. Hopefully that'll be okay. So first question is, what holds you guys together? I mean, chocolate generally holds me together on most days, but I'm talking more, biological. If you know what you see right there on your screen, maybe type it in. If somebody's already got it already, type it into the chat. You're right, your skeleton. We are what we call vertebrates, which means we have a spine and bones underneath our skin, and that keeps us together. We didn't have our spine and our bones, we'd sort of look like a bag of skin sort of in a big jelly mass on the floor. It wouldn't be pretty. However, today we are talking about something different. We are talking about invertebrates, which are animals that don't have bones. These guys make up 97% of all animals in the world. So that's a whole lot more, and probably more than you realized or that you see every day, because a lot of them are even smaller than you can see with your eyes. A lot of them have an outer shell which protects them or gives them structure, because otherwise they'd end up as a jelly mass on the floor. So they need something that holds them together also, or protects them from the outside. And we're going to talk about that shell also. We're going to talk about 5 different groups of invertebrates, and some of them have complicated names, and I'm going to explain those names. But these are the 5 groups that we're going to talk about, and we'll go through them one at a time. You don't need to worry about them right now. The first one, though, is worms. And I'll bet you didn't realize that 4 out of 5 animals on this entire planet is a roundworm. That means for every person here, I think there's 10, 12 people here, there are 57 billion roundworms on this planet. Okay, that's a lot of roundworms. Now, fortunately, we can't really see them. They're in the soil mostly. Some of them live in your digestive tract or the digestive tracts of animals. Okay. So they don't have a whole lot to do with us during the day, but it's a lot of worms. Yes. Probably the ones we know best are the ones I've got sitting right here next to me. I'm gonna wash them off a little bit. I've got some water I brought over here. You're not happy about that one, but come back here. Come here, dude. I did bring a couple of the most familiar worms. Oh, I wish I could see. Wait, can I see myself on the Zoom? Nope, that's not helpful at all. Okay.
We can see you.
Yeah, I wish I could tell. That didn't help. Okay. I can't see if you guys can see what I'm showing you, because I wanted to show you my worm friends. Can you guys see what's in my hand?
I think you've got to hold it a little higher.
There we go.
And then tilt it a little toward the camera.
A little toward the camera.
There we go.
There we go. Can you see my friends? So here are my worm friends, my earthworm friends. And I wanted you to get a good look at them because I wanted you to be able to see how they move. Because like I said, no skeleton, right? So what's holding them up? Earthworms have water pressure that holds them up. So sort of like, if you've ever had one of those water wiggler things, that's like a piece of like plastic filled with water and it's squishy, right? That's almost like what a worm holds a worm together. The round, if you can see sort of the round markings on him that go around, those are muscles. And that's what he uses to move. He pushes against the water that fills him. What I'm trying to see what's in the chat. Let me see if I can expand it. Somebody said, oh, come back here. If you stop screen sharing, it will be larger on the screen. Let's see. Let me stop the share for a second. All right. Oh, look at that. Okay, there we go. Can you see him better? Thank you. All right. So now you can get a better look at him. So if you can see his round, see the round circles that go all around his body, those are the muscles. All right. And he uses that against the water pressure to help move. All right. But now I got to go back to my screen share. There we go. Because I got lots of other animals to show you. All right, this is one of those names that is a little bit complicated. These are called the cnidarians. Now, who would have thought that corals, sea anemones, and jellies get grouped together? Anybody have an idea about why you might group these animals together? You can type it in the chat. I think you do. Underwater, that's true. They're all underwater. Anything else they might have in common? All these animals actually have tiny harpoons to defend themselves. Okay, which are actually stinging cells, but tiny harpoons sounds a little bit more fun. Most species, you don't feel the sting, right? Everybody knows that jellies sting, right? But you probably didn't realize that corals do too. You just don't feel it. So for example, we know jellies sting. So we know, most people know what a jelly looks like. It's got this round bell here and the tentacles. That's not where the stinging cells are. The stinging cells are the arms here. Then we've got the sea anemones. Who remembers Finding Nemo? Right? Remember from Finding Nemo? Where did Nemo and his dad live? Right? They lived in the anemone. And they had a very special reason for living in the anemone, right? They were the only fish that could live in the anemone because the anemone could sting. Okay. Clownfish are immune to the stinging, the toxin that's in the stinging. It's called symbiosis, if you want to use the big word for it. Okay. So the clownfish are immune to that. And in return, they get the protection from the anemone. And the clownfish keep the anemone clean. The clownfish have a backbone. They're vertebrates like you and me. But the anemone does not. And the anemone is an animal. It looks like a plant almost. But the anemone is an animal. And it's an invertebrate. It does not have a bone or a spine. But it does have those stinging cells. So we've got jellies, anemones, and then finally corals. And I bet a lot of people didn't even realize that corals, not only are they not rocks, they're not plants, they're animals. And they are invertebrates. And corals also have a symbiotic relationship, which means they live with another animal. How does the anemone sting? It has those harpoons, see, right here, the little trigger. The coral has little plants that live inside it, and that's what gives its coral its color. Now, the problem is, anybody heard of coral reef bleaching? Bleaching is when the coral reef dies. And the problem is that when the coral gets very stressed out, when it's polluted, okay, it spits out the zooxanthellae. It spits out the plants that live inside. And it turns white because its color comes from those plants. And it dies. Yep, if the coral's on the land, it turns gray or white because the zooxanthellae, the plants that are living inside, need to be in the water to live. So the coral can't live without those little plants that live inside. It also uses those stinging cells for defense. So we've got two different groups of invertebrates so far. We've talked about worms and we've talked about cnidarians, or the stinging animals. Next one is the mollusks. These guys have soft bodies and hard shells, and you sometimes eat them for dinner. Okay. We've got bivalves. Bi is two, so clams, mussels, scallops. Gastropods. Who knows what gastro means? Type it into the chat if you know what gastro means, or if you know what pod means. Who goes to the podiatrist? Anybody's mom or dad go to the podiatrist? Gastro is good. Gastro is stomach. Can coral be regrown? No, it does not regrow. You can grow more coral because it's a living thing. So you can encourage baby coral to grow somewhere. But once it dies, it's dead. Foot, and pod is foot. Good. So gastropods, snails, are stomach-footed animals. Their stomach is attached to their foot. And here is my friend Sheldon. Sheldon lives at the museum I work at.
Isn't a Moroccan snail?
He's a Moroccan snail.
Apparently trying to escape his confines.
He was trying to get away. I don't think he was really getting anywhere.
I think he's found out this is not a good place to climb.
There's my buddy Sheldon. Pretty good size, right? You can see his tentacles. Okay. Gastropods like Sheldon move mostly by feel. He's pretty slow. He uses that shell to hide and stay safe. And then finally, the cephalopods. So we said pod was foot, Anybody know what cephalo is? Cephalo is head. Good. So cephalo is head-footed animals. So animals whose head are attached to their feet. So octopuses and squid, and octopuses are pretty amazing. Now, these are other people's videos because I don't have an octopus, although it would be really awesome if I did. Okay. Octopuses are probably the smartest of all the invertebrates. This is one that I found of somebody with their octopus. And what he's got is there's a jar. Can you see the little crayfish in here? Little lobster. Favorite food.
Didn't get the crayfish.
And watch, the jar is sealed. Here comes the
It's gonna
octopus.
get it. Look at the upper.
Half the time, I can't even get a jar open,
Sees
keep in mind.
Wow,
Well,
look
watch
at
this
him.
octopus. And there's some holes in the top. So the suction cups on the octopus, he uses those for smelling and tasting. So he's using, look, he stuck his,
He's gonna
one of
get
his
it.
tentacles in there to find out what's inside. Somebody's little kid. So he can find out what's inside.
Cleaning the glass.
Oh, see, he stuck a tentacle in there to see what's inside, and he's like,
He
oh,
reached inside there. I know
he
that.
grabbed it,
Now let's see if he.
but he can't get it out,
He's got him.
right? He's holding him.
Now he's got to twist it off.
Watch.
Oh, look, he's popping it up.
Oh.
Look. Pop. Did you see him pop it up?
He did it.
See him?
He took that lid off.
Apple. See apple?
He took the lid off the jar.
Amazing, huh?
He got to eat he's a very smart octopus.
See apple?
Wow.
Pretty cool. Somebody just asked the difference between a squid and an octopus. They're very similar. They're shaped differently. They move a little bit differently. I don't know if I have a picture of a squid on here. They both move by jet propulsion. They both have very good eyes. You're right. They both have excellent, very complex eyes. They move by jet propulsion, which means they squirt water out in the opposite direction. And they both use an ink that they squirt at their predators if they need to escape. And this video shows both of those things. So here's an octopus. You can see the ink there a little bit. See how he's pushing, he's pushing the water in the opposite direction of where he wants to go. And then you can see the ink also. Oh, where'd he go? There he is. And that's if you get too close and he gets nervous, right? That's to confuse his predators. So they've got lots of adaptations. They've got really complex eyes. They've got that jet propulsion that moves really fast. They've got very good, they're very intelligent. They've got that ink that they can use to confuse predators. And they've got those suction cups that can be used for a lot of different, for sensing, for taste and feel. So these are really well adapted animals. All right, so that's our third group, mollusks. The next group is echinoderms. Okay, echino means spiny, and derm, if anybody's ever been to the dermatologist, is skin. So the echinoderms have spiny skin. Good. Okay, they also have 5-way symmetry. They're radial. They look, so they're symmetrical 5 ways. So sea stars are the most common echinoderm that people are familiar with. So they're prickly and spiny on the top, right? And they have little tube feet that they use to walk on. Okay. One of the things most people know about sea stars is they can regenerate their limbs. The other thing a lot of people don't realize about sea stars is that they have terrible manners. Okay. Sea stars are carnivorous, which means they eat meat. But in order to eat, do they have eyes? they have an eye spot, and you can actually see it on this guy. It's right here. See, there's a little white spot right there. That's an eye spot. He doesn't see a whole lot. He can sense light and dark, but beyond that, he doesn't have much. So what he does to eat is he takes his stomach and he actually spits his stomach out on top of his food. And he eats whatever he's eating externally. So like if you were sitting at your dinner table and he had a plate in front of him, he would take his stomach and he'd like plop it out on his plate and he'd eat, and then he'd pull his stomach back in. Okay, so they have external digestion, then they bring their stomach back in. Terrible manners. Don't invite them over to dinner. The other echinoderm is a sea cucumber. I don't know if anybody's ever seen one of these guys. They're basically long tubes. Very good. They pop their stuff. Oh, how did the sea stop pop their stomach out? They have a muscle that they eject their stomach with. I thought you meant the sea cucumbers, because the sea cucumbers also have something where they pop their stomach out. These guys just have terrible manners. So sea cucumbers are sort of long and squishy, and they basically walk along the bottom of the ocean floor. And it's basically, they eat with one end and poop out the other end. There's really not much else to them. They're pretty colors, but they also have some very strange guts. When they're threatened, the theory is, all right, if somebody's going to eat you, instead of eating you, it might be better off if they ate your guts, if you could make new guts. So sea cucumbers can spit out their guts at a predator. So if you came along and you wanted to eat a sea cucumber and he was scared of you, he would spit his guts out all over you. And the first problem you'd have would be that those guts would be really sticky and gross. And then the second problem you have is that while you were dealing with that, the sea cucumber would run away. You could have his guts to eat, but he'd just make new ones. And this is, again, I don't have a sea cucumber. This is somebody else's video.
Evolutionary defense 101.
Okay, he's gonna take the
Predator grabs it,
predator being what I see.
and Predator tries to chew it, and it spews.
Oh my God! So there's some sea cucumber guts.
Okay. Other than being gross, these are actually its gonads, its stomach.
Oh, I'm
and,
sorry. I didn't realize you could see the chat box.
Non-essential organs. It spews out. It
How
is
can a
really
gonad be
sticky,
non-essential?
as you can see. So the potential so the potential predator will actually get stuck in all this. Okay?
Isn't that nice and
Really
gross?
gross.
Don't. Leave it by itself. Okay?
All
These
right.
are the
Yes, absolutely gross and spectacular. All right, so that's 4 groups. Finally, the last group are the arthropods. Okay, arthro. Anybody have arthritis? I hope not. Arthro means joint, and pod is leg. So arthropods are jointed legs. These guys have an exoskeleton, okay, which is an external skeleton. We have an internal skeleton, okay, which means they molt. When they grow, they shed their skeleton and they make a new one. These are the bugs, spiders, scorpions, crabs, lobsters, your arthropods. The tarantula tea party is one of my favorites. Yes, this girl can come visit my house anytime and have a tarantula tea party. I love it. All right. So this is what happens when they molt their old shell. The old shell becomes thinner and a new one forms underneath. Okay. And then the animal puffs up, so the new shell gets a little bit bigger and makes them room to grow. Okay. And this is Fluffy, who lives at the museum I work at again. And Fluffy also is a hermit crab. So in addition to having her shell, okay, she also lives in somebody else's shell. And one day I found her
I think he's
getting
a new
into
shell.
a new shell. And you can see this is her back end like a tail. This is her front. So she's on her side here. You can see she's tipping her back end and putting it in the shell because she got bigger and she needed a bigger home. Look at that. And when she feels threatened, she goes all the way in that shell. And now you can see her joints. And that's her feeding tentacles. So crabs are arthropods. And insects are arthropods. Insects have 3 body parts. Bees, yep, arthropods. They have a head, a thorax, and an abdomen. They also have antennae, 6 legs, and wings. And Dr. Janae left us a video where she's going to show us some of the insects in her lab.
Hi there. It's Dr. Janae. I thought I'd take you over here to my lab space. This is where I work on my insects. Since I'm an entomologist, I study bugs and insects, and I usually focus on insects. We just talked about the parts of an insect that make it an insect, right? Let's see, what did we learn? We learned that they all have a hard, crunchy exoskeleton, kind of like, oh, let's see. In my kit, this is a bug box. These are pinned insects. I use these to keep a collection of the types of insects that are around certain areas. And it's very important that I keep copies of them and note when I catch them and where I catch them, so that if there's a problem with them disappearing, or if there's a problem with them eating things they're not supposed to eat, or if there's a problem with them being a really big pest, then I can look and see where they are and where they're going, when to expect them, that sort of stuff. And I'll show you how I pin them in just a second. But first, I wanted to show you a really fantastic rhinoceros beetle. And you can see it's got this very hard exoskeleton. Oh, look, it's turning. It's got this exoskeleton. That would go crunch if I stepped on it, wouldn't it? Ouch. The exoskeleton is like bones on the outside to protect the insect. But they also have 3 body parts, remember? This is a beautiful jeweled wasp. Look how pretty that is. And it's got a head. That's where its eyes are, its antennae are, and its mouth parts. See that? It's got a thorax. That's where all the parts are that help it move. It's got 6 jointed legs, and if it's got wings, whoops, which it does, they're attached to the thorax. And look at that abdomen. That's fantastic. It's beautiful. So when I pin my insect, like I said, it's very important to do it in a proper way so everyone can learn, so everyone can get the same information. So first I use a pinning block. And the first step puts the insect exactly where it belongs. The second step has the information about my location and time and date. And I just poke right in to the second block, and it puts it exactly where I need it. The third one is my name. It says it was collected by Dr. Janae Tolgetsky, entomologist. And then I pop it into my case. I like to keep them near the same ones, like wasp together, bees together, ants together, butterflies together. And we're going to talk about butterflies very soon. I happen to have right here monarch butterfly. I don't pin these the same way. What happens is I mount them so that you can see all of the details in the wings. So you can see that this is a monarch butterfly and it has a head with antennae. It has a thorax. Underneath, it has 6 legs. And here it has the abdomen. It does have wings, and those wings are attached where? On the thorax. That's right. As a matter of fact, I have this specimen right here so that you can see where its wings are, where its legs and wings are attached to the thorax. Now, later, we're going to learn a little bit more about the monarch butterfly because that's what I'm studying right now. And I'll take you out into the field, in the outdoors, to show you how I help the monarch butterflies to survive. Because remember when I mentioned that I have information about how many there are and where they are? This year, we noticed that there are so much fewer monarch butterflies around. And so it's my job to help the population and help figure out what's stopping them from reproducing, getting more butterflies, and what's keeping them out of this area.
All right, and I have some, I know we're getting close on time, but I have a couple more videos of the monarchs. So hopefully you guys can stick with me a little bit more so I can show you some of those monarch butterflies. The monarchs start, I'm not sure how to do a hand raise. If you've got a question, maybe just type it into the chat box. So the monarchs start with an egg, and the egg turns into a caterpillar. Okay, and I've got some videos of some big old caterpillars from Dr. Janae.
A very hungry caterpillar. He has stopped eating because I think he's a little camera shy. Let's see what he's doing. That's his head.
Now, these are from Janae, Dr. Janae's lab.
That he's chewing on, oopsie, the leaf. And those long, see? Oh, he's trying to scare me. These long antennae looking things are actually called tentacles, and they help him feel around. He does have antennae on his face, but they're located near his mouth so that he can sense food and taste it and smell it. But these tentacles that look like antennae are not antennae. They are just feelers. He can barely see. Oh, he's so scary. This one up here is trying to scare me too. Oh, he's so scary. We should stop looking at him when we're done talking about him. So, they are very hungry caterpillars. If you look, his eyes would be located right near his tentacles. You don't see any eyes. He has very poor eyesight and several little tiny underdeveloped eyes. They're not good for seeing. So they kind of wander around until they hit something, and they're close enough to tell whether it's yummy enough by putting their mouths on it. It's a little bit dangerous, I would think. Once they find something they like, though, they absolutely devour it, like they did that bush. Now they're moving on to this one. We'll let them eat in peace since they seem so shy. Bye, little larvae.
So those are the larvae. And when they're done eating, they hang upside down in this J and they become a chrysalis, which is here. And they spend time in that chrysalis until they transform into the butterfly. And you can see the butterfly in this chrysalis here. And when they come out of that, they do some eating.
Here she is drinking her. I think she's already had her fill. I don't see her proboscis.
And you can see
That's her
she's
tongue.
on some sugar water.
Her proboscis is her tongue, and she uses it to drink. There it is. There it is. You can see the curling out.
See the curling?
And she tastes that sweet water on the tissue with her feet, because she tastes it with her feet. But I think she's had her fill because it doesn't look like she's going to stick her proboscis out to taste or to drink, because she's been here a while.
So she's getting a drink.
Beautiful.
And then Dr. Janae, when they're grown up.
Okay, she's ready to fly. She's awfully rambunctious and she's getting set free. Gotta open the door. Not scare her. All right, she's outdoors. Where'd she go? She's gone. I can't even see her. She was so ready.
All right. So the last thing I had was to draw a monarch. If you brought a paper and pencil and you wanted to do that, we can draw a monarch. I'll leave this up on the screen, but I know I'm over time, so I know some of you might have to go.